Welcome, and thank you for joining me tonight. This is the beginning of a long, gentle journey through the entire history of China, told in a soft, calming voice designed to help you relax, unwind, and drift towards sleep. Over the next hour and a half, we will move slowly through thousands of years, from the earliest human settlements to the rise of the first dynasties. Everything you hear will be delivered in a soothing, peaceful rhythm, allowing your mind to settle and your body to rest. If you enjoy calming history videos like this, feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another relaxing story. For now, take a deep breath. Let your shoulders loosen, and allow your thoughts to drift as we begin our journey at the very dawn of Chinese civilization. Long before the first kings, long before the first written characters, long before the idea of China even existed, people lived along the great rivers that shaped the land. The Yellow River in the north, with its unpredictable floods and fertile soil, and the Yangtze River in the south, with its warm climate and abundant water, became the cradles of early life. Imagine small groups of people gathering near the riverbanks, building simple shelters from wood, reeds, and earth. They hunted, they fished, they gathered wild plants, and slowly, over countless generations, they learned to cultivate the land. Millet grew in the north, rice in the south, and with each passing season, people became more skilled at farming, storing food, and surviving the changing weather. These early communities were small, but they were the seeds of something much larger. Over time, families grew into villages, and villages grew into clusters of settlements. People learned to shape clay into pottery, to weave fibers into cloth, and to craft tools from stone and bone. They discovered how to fire pottery in kilns, creating vessels that could store grain, water, and food. They learned to grind grain into flour, to cook meals over fire, and to preserve food for the winter. Life was simple, but it was steady, and each generation built upon the knowledge of the one before it. Archaeologists have uncovered traces of these early cultures. The Yangshao culture, known for its painted pottery, the Longshan culture, known for its black, polished ceramics, and many others whose names we may never know. These cultures left behind fragments of their lives, shards of pottery, stone tools, foundations of homes, and burial sites that reveal how they lived, how they worked, and how they honored their dead. Though we cannot hear their voices, their presence lingers in the soil, in the artifacts they left behind, and in the traditions that would one day shape a great civilization. As these early societies grew more complex, stories began to form. Stories of wise rulers, heroic figures, and ancient kings who brought order to the world. These stories were passed down through generations, carried by memory and spoken word. They were not written down until much later, but they reveal how early people understood leadership, morality, and the forces of nature. Among these legendary figures, one stands out: Yu the Great. According to tradition, Yu devoted his life to controlling the devastating floods of the Yellow River. Instead of blocking the water, he redirected it, carving channels and guiding the flow so that the land could be farmed safely. His dedication was so complete that he passed his own home 3 times without stopping, determined to finish his work. Whether Yu was a real person or a symbolic figure, his story reflects the deep connection between early Chinese society and the natural world. The tale of Yu marks the beginning of what tradition calls the Jia dynasty, the first dynasty in Chinese history. Though archaeological evidence is limited, the Jia represent the transition from myth to history, from scattered villages to organized states. Imagine a landscape dotted with early towns, each ruled by local leaders who claimed authority through ancestry, ritual, and control of the land. Bronze tools began to appear, signaling a new era of craftsmanship and technology. People learned to cast bronze in molds, creating weapons, tools, and ritual vessels that were stronger and more durable than anything made before. The Jia period symbolizes the birth of dynastic rule, a pattern that would continue for thousands of years. As time passed, the Jia gave way to the Shang dynasty, a civilization we can see more clearly through archaeology. The Shang built fortified cities with walls of packed earth, constructed palaces and temples, and developed a complex social hierarchy. At the top stood the king, who served not only as a political leader but also as a spiritual intermediary between the living and the ancestors. The Shang believed that their ancestors could influence the world of the living, guiding them, protecting them, or warning them through signs and omens. To communicate with these ancestors, the Shang used oracle bones, pieces of turtle shell or animal bone that were heated until they cracked. The cracks were interpreted as messages, and the questions asked were carved into the bones. These inscriptions represent the earliest known form of Chinese writing, a direct link to the thoughts and concerns of people who lived more than 3,000 years ago. Life during the Shang dynasty was structured and ritualistic. Farmers worked the land, growing millet, wheat, and barley. Artisans crafted bronze vessels with intricate designs, pottery with elegant shapes, and jade ornaments that symbolized purity and power. Nobles served the king, leading armies, managing territories, and performing ceremonies. Warriors fought with bronze weapons. Chariots rolled across the battlefield, and rituals were performed to honor the ancestors and maintain harmony between the human world and the spirit world. The Shang left behind a legacy of art, writing, and ritual that would influence Chinese culture for centuries. Eventually, the Shang were overthrown by the Zhou dynasty, who introduced one of the most important ideas in Chinese political thought: the mandate of heaven. This concept held that a ruler governed with the approval of heaven, but only as long as he ruled justly. If a ruler became corrupt, cruel, or ineffective, heaven could withdraw its mandate, and another family could take power. This idea shaped Chinese history for thousands of years, providing a moral framework for leadership and a justification for rebellion when rulers failed their people. Early Zhou rule was strong, and the dynasty expanded its territory. But over time, the central authority weakened, and local lords gained power. The Zhou kings became symbolic figures, while real control shifted to regional states. This led to centuries of conflict, but also centuries of intellectual growth. Thinkers traveled from state to state, offering advice, teaching students, and debating the nature of society, morality, and the universe. Confucius taught about ethics, family, and social harmony. Laozi emphasized balance, simplicity, and the natural flow of life. Legalist thinkers argued for strict laws and strong authority. These ideas shaped Chinese culture in profound ways, influencing everything from government to education to daily life. As the Zhou weakened further, powerful states fought for dominance in what became known as the Warring States period. Armies grew larger, weapons improved, and strategies became more sophisticated. Iron tools spread across the countryside, increasing agricultural productivity and supporting growing populations. Cities expanded, trade flourished, and society became more dynamic and complex. Among the competing states, the state of Qin grew increasingly strong, disciplined, and ambitious. Its leaders embraced legalism, built powerful armies, and prepared for conquest. Slowly, methodically, the Qin defeated their rivals one by one, until only they remained. As we continue drifting through the earliest chapters of China's long story, the world of the warring states still stretches before us, filled with tension, ambition, and the slow, steady movement of history toward unification. The land is divided into powerful kingdoms, each ruled by leaders who dream of becoming the one true ruler of all under heaven. Armies march across plains and valleys, chariots rumble over dusty roads, and messengers carry urgent letters between distant courts. Yet beneath the noise of conflict, there is also a quiet transformation taking place, one that will shape the future of China for thousands of years. In the villages and towns scattered across the countryside, life continues in its steady rhythm. Farmers rise with the sun, tending to fields of millet, wheat, and rice. Children play near the rivers, learning the skills they will one day need to survive. Craftsmen shape iron tools, weave cloth, and carve wood into furniture and utensils. Markets fill with the sounds of bargaining, laughter, and the clatter of carts. Even in times of war, daily life persists, carried forward by the resilience of ordinary people. Their quiet determination forms the foundation upon which great dynasties will rise. Meanwhile, in the courts of the competing states, rulers seek wisdom from scholars, strategists, and philosophers. These thinkers debate the nature of power, the responsibilities of leadership, and the best way to create a harmonious society. Confucian scholars emphasize virtue, respect, and moral conduct. Taoist thinkers encourage simplicity, balance, and alignment with the natural world. Legalist advisors argue for strict laws, strong authority, and unwavering discipline. These ideas swirl through the courts like currents in a river, influencing decisions, shaping policies, and guiding the ambitions of kings. As the years pass, the state of Qin grows stronger. Its rulers enforce strict laws, reward loyalty, and punish corruption. They build roads that stretch across mountains and valleys, allowing armies to move quickly and efficiently. They standardize weights and measures, making trade more reliable. They organize their society with precision, creating a system that is both disciplined and effective. Slowly, the Qin begin to overpower their rivals, conquering one state after another. The dream of unification, once distant and uncertain, begins to take shape. But before the Qin can claim victory, the land must endure the final intense struggles of the warring states. Battles rage across the countryside, with armies clashing in fields, forests, and river valleys. Generals devise strategies, soldiers fight bravely, and families wait anxiously for news of their loved ones. The land is scarred by conflict, yet it is also moving toward a moment of profound transformation. The centuries of division are nearing their end, and a new era is about to begin. As we drift deeper into this ancient world, it becomes clear that the early dynasties were not just political entities, they were living, breathing societies shaped by countless individuals. The farmers who planted crops, the artisans who crafted tools, the traders who carried goods along dusty roads, the scholars who debated philosophy, the warriors who defended their states, all of them contributed to the unfolding story of China. Their lives, though separated from us by thousands of years, still echo through time, reminding us that history is built not only by kings and generals, but by the quiet persistence of everyday people. The early dynasties also laid the foundations for cultural traditions that would endure for millennia. The reverence for ancestors, the importance of family, the value placed on education, the belief in harmony between humans and nature, these ideas took root in the earliest periods of Chinese history and continued to shape society long after the dynasties themselves had faded. Even the earliest forms of writing, carved into oracle bones during the Shang dynasty, evolved into the characters still used today. Each stroke of each character carries with it a connection to the past, a link between ancient and modern worlds. As the Zhou dynasty weakened and the Warring States period intensified, the land became a place of both danger and opportunity. Ambitious leaders sought to expand their territories while ordinary people adapted to the changing times. Some fled to safer regions, others joined armies, and many simply continued their daily routines, hoping for peace. The constant movement of people and ideas created a dynamic environment where cultures blended, technologies spread, and new ways of thinking emerged. This period of turmoil, though difficult, was also a time of remarkable creativity and growth. Eventually, the Qin emerged as the dominant power, poised to unify the land and bring an end to centuries of conflict. But before that moment arrives, the world of ancient China stands on the threshold of transformation. The rivers continue to flow, the fields continue to grow, and the people continue to live their lives, unaware that they are standing at the edge of a new era. The early dynasties, Xia, Shang, and Zhou, have laid the groundwork for everything that will come next. Their stories, both legendary and historical, form the roots of a civilization that will endure for thousands of years. As we drift gently from the ancient world into the next great chapter of China's story, the land stands on the edge of transformation. The long centuries of the warring states have shaped a landscape filled with ambition, conflict, and the slow, steady evolution of ideas. The people who lived through this era have endured hardship, uncertainty, and constant change, yet they have also created a foundation of knowledge, philosophy, and resilience that will guide the future. Now, as the final rival states fall one by one, the world is preparing for something new: the birth of a unified empire. The state of Qin, disciplined and determined, rises above the rest. Its armies are strong, its laws strict, and its leaders unwavering in their vision. Imagine the feeling of a land that has been divided for generations suddenly beginning to move toward unity. Roads stretch across mountains and valleys, connecting distant regions. Messengers ride swiftly between cities, carrying orders, reports, and news of victories. Villagers hear rumors of battles far away, of kings defeated, of territories absorbed into the growing power of Qin. There is tension in the air, but also a sense of inevitability, as if the land itself knows that a new era is approaching. In 221 BCE, the final rival state falls, and the ruler of Qin declares himself the first emperor of China. His name is Qin Shi Huang, and his ambition is vast. He dreams of a nation where everything is unified: the writing system, the currency, the measurements, the laws, and even the width of the roads. Under his rule, China becomes a single political entity for the first time in its long history. Imagine the immense effort required to bring order to such a vast land. Officials travel from region to region, inspecting roads, enforcing laws, and ensuring that the emperor's commands are followed. Workers build new infrastructure, carving paths through mountains, constructing bridges over rivers, and connecting cities that had once been isolated from one another. Qin Shi Huang orders the construction of massive defensive walls in the north, early foundations of what would later become the Great Wall. These walls stretch across rugged terrain, built by countless laborers who work through heat, cold, wind, and dust. The emperor also commands the creation of an enormous underground mausoleum, a vast complex meant to accompany him into the afterlife. Within it stands the terracotta army, thousands of life-sized clay soldiers, each with unique features, expressions, and armor. They stand silently in formation, frozen in time, guardians of a ruler who sought to control not only the world of the living, but also the world beyond. Yet despite the emperor's achievements, the Qin dynasty is short-lived. The strict laws, heavy taxes, and forced labor create resentment among the people. The empire, though unified, is fragile, held together by fear rather than trust. When Qin Shi Huang dies, the dynasty collapses quickly, like a great structure built too rigidly to withstand the pressures of time. But even in its brief existence, the Qin dynasty leaves a lasting legacy. It creates the blueprint for imperial China, establishing systems and standards that will endure for centuries. From the ruins of the Qin rises a new dynasty, one that will shape Chinese identity for generations: the Han dynasty. The Han bring a gentler approach to governance, blending the administrative efficiency of the Qin with the moral teachings of Confucianism. Under the Han, China enters a golden age of culture, science, and expansion. Imagine bustling markets filled with silk, spices, pottery, and fresh produce. Imagine scholars studying ancient texts, refining ideas about ethics, government, and the natural world. Imagine farmers working fertile fields, artisans crafting beautiful objects, and travelers moving along new trade routes that stretch farther than ever before. One of the most important developments of the Han era is the opening of the Silk Road, a vast network of trade routes connecting China to Central Asia, the Middle East, and even the Mediterranean. Through these routes, silk, tea, and porcelain travel westward, while horses, glassware, and new ideas travel eastward. The Silk Road becomes a bridge between civilizations, carrying not only goods but also stories, religions, and cultures. Caravans move slowly across deserts, mountains, and plains, guided by stars, experience, and the hope of reaching distant markets. Along the way, travelers share tales of their homelands, creating a tapestry of cultural exchange that enriches every region it touches. During the Han Dynasty, paper is invented, transforming the way knowledge is recorded and shared. Before paper, writing was done on bamboo strips, silk, or carved into wood and bone. Paper makes writing easier, faster, and more accessible. It becomes a tool for scholars, officials, merchants, and artists, allowing ideas to spread more widely than ever before. Astronomy advances as scholars observe the stars, track celestial movements, and develop calendars. Medicine evolves as doctors study herbs, acupuncture, and the balance of energies within the body. Engineering flourishes as inventors create new tools, machines, and techniques that improve daily life. The Han government develops a civil service system based on merit, allowing talented individuals to rise through the ranks by passing examinations. This idea, that government officials should be chosen for their ability rather than their birth, becomes a defining feature of Chinese society for centuries. Education becomes a path to success, and families encourage their children to study diligently, hoping they will one day serve the empire with honor. Life during the Han is rich and varied. In the countryside, families live in simple homes made of wood and earth, surrounded by fields of crops and orchards of fruit trees. They celebrate festivals that mark the changing seasons, honoring ancestors and giving thanks for the harvest. In the cities, merchants trade goods from distant lands. Craftsmen create intricate works of art, and entertainers perform music, dance, and acrobatics. The streets are filled with the sounds of conversation, laughter, and the clatter of carts. Tea houses offer warm drinks and quiet moments of reflection. Temples provide spaces for prayer, meditation, and community gatherings. The Han Dynasty becomes so influential that many Chinese people still identify themselves as Han today, a reflection of the dynasty's lasting impact on culture and identity. Yet even golden ages eventually fade. After centuries of strength, the Han Dynasty begins to weaken. Corruption spreads, natural disasters strike, and powerful warlords rise. The empire fractures, breaking into smaller kingdoms. China enters a long period of division known as the Three Kingdoms era, a time filled with dramatic battles, shifting alliances, and legendary figures. Though turbulent, this era becomes one of the most romanticized periods in Chinese history, inspiring countless stories, novels, and operas. As the centuries pass, China remains divided, with northern and southern dynasties rising and falling. Nomadic peoples from the north migrate into Chinese territory, blending cultures and traditions. Buddhism spreads across the land, offering comfort and spiritual guidance during uncertain times. Monasteries grow, scriptures are translated, and new forms of art and architecture emerge. The blending of Chinese, Central Asian, and Indian influences creates a rich cultural tapestry, shaping the spiritual landscape of the region. As we continue drifting through the long and gentle story of classical China, the land remains divided after the fall of the Han, yet it is alive with movement, change, and transformation. The centuries that follow are filled with shifting kingdoms, rising warlords, and the blending of cultures from near and far. Though the political landscape is fractured, the spirit of the people remains strong, and the foundations of Chinese civilization continue to evolve. The Three Kingdoms era, with its dramatic battles and legendary heroes, becomes a time of both hardship and inspiration. Stories from this period echo through the ages, reminding us that even in times of turmoil, courage and loyalty can shine brightly. As the Three Kingdoms give way to the Jin dynasty and the Jin eventually fracture into northern and southern courts, China enters a long era of division. Nomadic peoples from the steppes migrate into northern China, bringing their own customs, languages, and traditions. In the south, Chinese culture continues to flourish, shaped by scholars, poets, and artists who seek refuge from the conflicts of the north. Though the land is divided, it is also enriched by the blending of cultures, ideas, and beliefs. Buddhism spreads across the region, offering comfort and guidance during uncertain times. Monasteries grow, scriptures are translated, and new forms of art and architecture emerge. The teachings of the Buddha mingle with the philosophies of Confucianism and Taoism, creating a spiritual landscape that is both diverse and deeply rooted. Life during this era is complex and varied. In the north, nomadic rulers adopt elements of Chinese culture, blending their own traditions with those of the people they govern. In the south, scholars gather in elegant gardens discussing poetry, philosophy, and the nature of existence. Families celebrate festivals, honoring ancestors and marking the changing seasons. Farmers continue to cultivate the land. Artisans craft beautiful objects, and merchants travel along rivers and roads, carrying goods between distant regions. Even in times of division, daily life continues, shaped by the rhythms of nature and the resilience of the people. Eventually, the Sui dynasty rises and reunifies China, bringing an end to centuries of fragmentation. Though the Sui rule for only a short time, their accomplishments are profound. They build the Grand Canal, a vast waterway that connects the fertile south with the political centers of the north. This canal becomes one of the most important engineering achievements in Chinese history, enabling trade, communication, and the movement of grain across great distances. Workers dig through mountains, carve channels through valleys, and link rivers that had once flowed separately. The Grand Canal becomes a lifeline for the empire, supporting its growth and stability for centuries to come. The Sui also reform the government, strengthen the military, and attempt ambitious projects that strain the resources of the people. Their rule, though transformative, is marked by heavy labor demands and costly campaigns. Eventually, rebellion spreads and the Sui dynasty collapses, but from its foundations rises one of the most brilliant dynasties in Chinese history, the Tang. The Tang dynasty ushers in a golden age of culture, art, and international exchange. The capital city, Chang'an, becomes one of the largest and most cosmopolitan cities in the world. Imagine wide avenues lined with shops, temples, and tea houses. Merchants from Persia, India, Korea, Japan, and the Arab world walk through the streets, carrying goods and stories from faraway lands. The air is filled with the scent of spices, the sound of foreign languages, and the rhythm of music from many cultures. It is a city alive with energy, curiosity, and creativity. Poetry flourishes during the Tang era. Poets like Li Bai, with his free-spirited verses, and Du Fu, with his thoughtful reflections on life and society, create works that become timeless treasures. Their poems capture the beauty of nature, the joys and sorrows of human experience, and the complexities of the world around them. Scholars gather in tea houses, reciting verses, debating ideas, and finding inspiration in the mountains, rivers, and changing seasons. Art becomes more refined, with elegant paintings, detailed sculptures, and graceful calligraphy. Music and dance flourish, influenced by cultures from across Asia. The Tang dynasty also expands its borders, establishing contact with distant regions and influencing cultures far beyond its own. Diplomats, traders, and travelers move along the Silk Road, carrying goods, ideas, and stories between East and West. Buddhism reaches its peak during this era, with grand temples, towering statues, and vibrant monasteries that attract pilgrims from across the continent. The blending of Chinese, Indian, Persian, and Central Asian influences creates a rich cultural tapestry that defines the Tang era, yet even golden ages face challenges. Rebellions, political struggles, and natural disasters test the strength of the dynasty. Over time, the Tang begin to weaken, and eventually they fall, but their legacy remains, shining brightly in the memory of the nation. After the Tang, China enters a period of transition, but soon another remarkable dynasty emerges, the Song. The Song era is different from the Tang, quieter in some ways, but equally extraordinary. While the Tang are known for their cosmopolitan brilliance, the Song are known for their refinement, their innovation, and their deep appreciation for the beauty of everyday life. Imagine peaceful landscapes painted with delicate brushstrokes, capturing misty mountains, flowing rivers, and quiet villages. These paintings reflect the Song spirit, calm, thoughtful, and deeply connected to nature. During the Song dynasty, technology advances rapidly. Gunpowder becomes more widely used, the compass improves navigation, and printing spreads knowledge more quickly than ever before. Cities grow, trade expands, and markets fill with goods from across the empire. Tea culture flourishes, with people gathering to enjoy quiet moments of reflection. Scholars study ancient texts, debate philosophy, and write essays that explore the nature of society and the human mind. The civil service examination system becomes even more important, allowing talented individuals to rise through the ranks based on merit. Life during the Song is rich and varied. In the countryside, farmers cultivate rice paddies and tend to their fields. In the cities, artisans craft porcelain, silk, and lacquerware. Merchants travel along rivers and roads, carrying goods to distant markets. Families gather for festivals, honoring ancestors and celebrating the changing seasons. The Song dynasty is a time of stability, creativity, and quiet prosperity. Yet despite their cultural achievements, the Song face military challenges. Powerful nomadic groups rise in the north, and eventually the Song lose control of northern China. They retreat to the south, establishing the Southern Song dynasty, which continues to thrive culturally but struggles to defend its borders. As the centuries pass, a new force emerges on the northern steppes: the Mongols. Social divisions arise between the Mongols and the Chinese population. Heavy taxes, natural disasters, and administrative challenges create hardship for many. Over time, resentment grows, and rebellions begin to spread across the land. The Mongol rulers, though powerful, struggle to maintain control over such a vast and diverse empire. Slowly, the Yuan dynasty weakens, and the seeds of change begin to take root. From this period of unrest emerges a new leader, Zhu Yuanzhang, a former monk who rises to power through determination, resilience, and strategic brilliance. He leads a rebellion that sweeps across the land, driving out the Mongols and restoring Chinese rule. In 1368, he establishes the Ming dynasty, marking the beginning of another remarkable era in Chinese history. The rise of the Ming brings a sense of renewal, stability, and cultural revival. But before we move into that story, let us linger a little longer in the final moments of the medieval Golden Ages. Imagine the world as it transitions from the Song to the Yuan, from the Yuan to the Ming. The land is filled with movement. Armies marching, merchants traveling, monks meditating, scholars writing, farmers tending their fields. The rivers continue to flow, the mountains continue to stand, and the people continue to live their lives, adapting to each new change with quiet resilience. The medieval Golden Ages are not defined solely by their dynasties, but by the countless individuals who shaped them through their creativity, their labor, and their enduring spirit. The Tang brought brilliance, poetry, and cosmopolitan energy. The Song brought refinement, innovation, and quiet beauty. The Yuan brought connection, diversity, and global exchange. Together, these eras form a tapestry of cultural richness that continues to influence China and the world long after their dynasties have faded. Their art, their ideas, their inventions, and their stories remain alive, carried forward by generations who find inspiration in their legacy. And now, as the medieval Golden Ages come to a gentle close, the world prepares for the rise of the Ming dynasty, a period of restoration, exploration, and renewed strength. As we drift gently into the final centuries of imperial China, the world is once again changing. The Mongol-led Yuan dynasty has come to an end, and from the turmoil of rebellion and hardship, a new dynasty rises, the Ming. The land, weary from foreign rule and heavy burdens, begins to breathe again as Chinese leadership is restored. Imagine the feeling of a long storm finally passing, the clouds parting, and the sunlight returning to warm the earth. This is the beginning of the Ming era, a time of renewal, restoration, and remarkable achievement. The founder of the Ming dynasty, Zhu Yuanzhang, begins life as a poor peasant, orphaned at a young age, surviving famine, disease, and the harsh realities of a world in chaos. He becomes a monk, then a rebel, and eventually a leader whose determination and resilience carry him to the throne. When he becomes the Hongwu emperor, he works tirelessly to rebuild the land. Fields are restored, canals repaired, and cities rebuilt. Laws are rewritten, corruption is punished, and the government is reorganized to ensure stability. The people, long burdened by war and hardship, begin to find hope again. Life during the early Ming is shaped by a desire to restore order and tradition. The emperor encourages farming, strengthens local communities, and promotes Confucian values. Families return to their fields, planting rice, wheat, and vegetables. Markets reopen, filled with the sounds of merchants calling out their goods, children laughing, and animals moving through the streets. Craftsmen create pottery, textiles, and tools, their hands shaping the objects that will fill homes across the empire. The land begins to flourish once more, nourished by the steady rhythm of daily life. As the Ming dynasty grows stronger, it becomes known for its extraordinary achievements in art, architecture, and exploration. The Forbidden City is constructed in Beijing, a vast palace complex with golden roofs, red walls, and intricate carvings. Imagine walking through its courtyards at dawn, the air cool and still, the sound of footsteps echoing softly against stone. The palace becomes the heart of the empire, a symbol of imperial power and the center of political life for centuries to come. Ming porcelain becomes famous around the world, admired for its delicate shapes, vibrant colors, and intricate designs. Artisans paint scenes of mountains, rivers, flowers, and mythical creatures onto smooth, white surfaces, creating objects that are both beautiful and functional. These pieces travel along trade routes to distant lands, where they are treasured by kings, merchants, and collectors. The Ming era becomes synonymous with artistic excellence, its creations admired across continents. One of the most remarkable figures of the Ming dynasty is Zheng He, a great admiral who leads vast fleets on voyages across the Indian Ocean. His ships, some of the largest wooden vessels ever built, sail to Southeast Asia, India, Arabia, and the east coast of Africa. Imagine these enormous ships gliding across the waves, their sails billowing in the wind, their decks filled with sailors, merchants, and diplomats. Zheng He brings gifts, establishes trade relationships, and represents the power and generosity of the Ming Empire. His voyages demonstrate China's ability to explore the world, connect with distant cultures, and share its wealth and knowledge. Yet despite these achievements, the Ming dynasty faces challenges. Corruption grows within the government, natural disasters strike, and the burden of defending the northern borders becomes increasingly heavy. The Great Wall is expanded and strengthened, stretching across mountains and deserts like a stone dragon guarding the land. Soldiers stand watch in lonely towers, scanning the horizon for signs of danger. Farmers near the frontier live with the constant awareness of conflict, tending their fields while listening for distant echoes of battle. As time passes, the Ming dynasty begins to weaken. Famine spreads, rebellions rise, and the government struggles to maintain control. The people, once hopeful, become weary again. In the midst of this turmoil, a new force emerges from the northeast, the Manchus. They are skilled horsemen, disciplined warriors, and determined leaders. Slowly, they gain strength, forming alliances, building armies, and preparing to seize the mandate of heaven. In 1644, the Ming dynasty falls, and the Manchus establish the Qing dynasty, the last imperial dynasty in Chinese history. The transition is turbulent, marked by battles, betrayals, and shifting loyalties. Yet once the Qing secure their rule, they bring stability, prosperity, and expansion to the land. The early Qing emperors are strong, capable leaders who work to unify the empire, strengthen the economy, and promote cultural growth. Life during the Qing dynasty is shaped by a blend of Manchu and Han traditions. The emperors adopt many aspects of Chinese culture, including Confucian values, classical literature, and the civil service examination system. At the same time, they maintain their own customs, such as the queue hairstyle and certain clothing styles. The blending of cultures creates a unique identity for the Qing era, one that reflects both continuity and change. The Qing dynasty expands China's borders to their greatest extent, incorporating vast regions in the north, west, and southwest. The empire becomes one of the largest and most diverse in the world, home to many ethnic groups, languages, and traditions. Trade flourishes, cities grow, and the population increases dramatically. Scholars compile enormous encyclopedias, preserving knowledge from centuries of history. Artists create detailed paintings, intricate carvings, and elegant calligraphy. The imperial court becomes a center of culture, ceremony, and political power. Yet beneath the surface, challenges begin to grow. The population expands faster than the economy can support, leading to shortages of land and resources. Corruption spreads within the government, weakening its ability to respond to crises. Natural disasters, including floods and droughts, bring hardship to millions. Rebellions erupt, some small and local, others vast and devastating. The White Lotus Rebellion, the Taiping Rebellion, and other uprisings shake the empire to its core, causing immense suffering and loss. At the same time, foreign powers begin to exert pressure on China. European nations seeking trade and influence arrive with advanced ships, weapons, and demands. The Opium Wars, unequal treaties, and territorial concessions weaken the Qing dynasty and undermine its authority. The people grow increasingly frustrated, caught between internal struggles and external threats. The once strong empire begins to falter, its foundations shaken by forces both within and beyond its borders. And now, as the Qing dynasty stands at the edge of collapse, the world prepares for the end of imperial China and the beginning of a new era. As we continue drifting through the final centuries of imperial China, the Qing dynasty stands tall, its borders vast, its culture rich, and its influence far-reaching. Yet beneath the surface, quiet tremors begin to shake the foundations of the empire. The population has grown enormously, stretching the limits of farmland and resources. Families struggle to find enough land for their children, and tensions rise in villages and towns. The government, once strong and efficient, becomes increasingly burdened by corruption, inefficiency, and internal conflict. Officials argue, factions form, and the once smooth machinery of the state begins to grind and strain under its own weight. At the same time, the world beyond China is changing rapidly. European nations driven by industrialization seek new markets, new resources, and new spheres of influence. Their ships, powered by steam and armed with advanced weapons, arrive on China's shores with demands that the Qing government is unprepared to meet. The Opium Wars erupt, bringing humiliation and loss. China is forced to sign unequal treaties, ceding territory, opening ports, and granting privileges to foreign powers. The people watch with growing frustration as their leaders struggle to respond to these new challenges. The once proud empire begins to feel the weight of external pressure, its sovereignty slowly eroding. Inside the country, unrest grows. Secret societies form, peasants rise in rebellion, and local conflicts flare into large-scale uprisings. The Taiping Rebellion, one of the deadliest conflicts in human history, sweeps across southern China, leaving devastation in its wake. Cities burn, families flee, and the land is scarred by years of violence. The Qing government, already weakened, struggles to contain the rebellion, relying on regional armies and local leaders to restore order. Though the rebellion is eventually crushed, the cost is immense, and the empire emerges even more fragile than before. As the 19th century progresses, new ideas begin to spread across China. Scholars, merchants, and travelers encounter Western science, technology, and political thought. Some see these ideas as threats, while others see them as opportunities for reform. Debates fill the halls of government, the pages of newspapers, and the minds of young students. Should China cling to its traditions, or should it embrace change? Should it resist foreign influence, or should it learn from it? These questions echo across the empire, creating a sense of uncertainty and possibility. Efforts at reform begin, but they are often slow, inconsistent, or blocked by conservative officials who fear losing power. The self-strengthening movement attempts to modernize the military, build factories, and improve education, but progress is uneven. Railways are built, telegraph lines stretch across the land, and new schools open their doors. Yet the empire struggles to keep pace with the rapidly changing world. The Qing court, caught between tradition and modernity, hesitates, falters, and sometimes contradicts itself. The people grow restless, sensing that the old ways are no longer enough to protect the nation. Foreign powers continue to exert influence, carving out spheres of control, demanding concessions, and imposing their will on a weakened government. The Boxer Rebellion erupts at the turn of the century, fueled by anger at foreign intrusion and frustration with the Qing leadership. Though the rebellion is ultimately suppressed by an international coalition, it leaves the empire even more vulnerable. The Qing government, desperate to survive, launches a series of late reforms, attempting to modernize the military, revise the legal system, and create new political institutions. But these efforts come too late, and the momentum of change has already moved beyond the control of the imperial court. In the early 20th century, revolutionary ideas spread rapidly. Students study abroad, returning with visions of democracy, nationalism, and modernization. Secret groups organize, calling for the end of imperial rule. The people, weary of corruption, foreign domination, and endless hardship, begin to support the idea of a new government. In 1911, the Xinhai Revolution erupts, sweeping across the land with surprising speed. Provinces declare independence, officials defect, and the Qing dynasty collapses. The last emperor, a child named Puyi, abdicates the throne, bringing an end to more than 2,000 years of imperial rule. The fall of the Qing marks the end of an era and the beginning of a new chapter in China's long story. The Republic of China is established, filled with hope, ambition, and uncertainty. The land, once ruled by emperors, now seeks to define itself in a world of modern nations, new ideologies, and rapid change. Warlords rise, political factions clash, and foreign powers continue to exert influence. Yet beneath the turmoil, there is also a sense of possibility, as if the nation is awakening from a long dream and stepping into a new dawn. Life during the early republic is complex and often chaotic. Cities grow, factories rise, and new technologies spread. Trains whistle across the countryside, telephones ring in busy offices, and newspapers carry stories of science, politics, and global events. Students march in the streets calling for reform and national unity. Writers, artists, and thinkers explore new ideas, blending tradition with modernity. The people, though facing hardship, begin to imagine a future shaped not by emperors but by themselves. As the decades pass, China undergoes profound transformations. Conflicts erupt, alliances shift, and the nation struggles to find stability. Yet through all the turmoil, the spirit of the people endures. They rebuild, adapt, and continue forward, carrying with them the legacy of thousands of years of history. The fall of the Qing dynasty and the rise of the Republic mark the end of imperial China, but they also mark the beginning of a new era, one filled with challenges, but also with hope. And now, as we gently bring this long journey through the dynasties to a close, the world stands on the threshold of modern China. Thank you for joining me on this calm journey through the history of China. I hope this gentle storytelling helped you relax, unwind, and drift toward rest. If you enjoyed this peaceful exploration, feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments what other topics you'd like to fall asleep to. For now, let your mind settle, let your breathing slow, and allow yourself to drift into a deep, restful sleep. Good night.